Hello, welcome to a late night edition of Hotline Live with Record Sport, brought to you by NordVPN, easily the best VPN for watching sporting events while abroad. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Keith Jackson, who looks
What's happening here? I go away for a couple of nights and I'll come back and we'll get a sponsor.
Well, they saw me doing it myself and they thought that's the kind of podcast we want.
Good.
But there you go.
And what does NordVPN entail?
Well,
what's the benefits of NordVPN?
There's plenty of links in our description on YouTube and on Spotify. So if you're listening, check it out. It's been a huge night, though, Keith, in the Premiership. We're going to talk about Motherwell and Rangers drawn 1-1. But delighted to say we're joined all the way from Celtic Park by a very cold-looking Michael Gannon.
Yeah. I've been sponsored by Primark Long Johns for all your thermal underwear needs. It's a bit chilly.
Celtic obviously left it late tonight. I'll come to the game in a minute, but I just saw on X Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's goal, and it's a really, really impressive strike.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, incredible kind of drama. I mean, yet again, stoppage time. This is not actually a hat in my head. This is my pants in my head. For a journalist on deadline having to deal with these last minute winners that changed the entire rhetoric of an evening. It's unbelievable.
Mick, it might not just be your match report which get changed tonight entirely by that late intervention by Oxlade-Chamberlain. Who knows what this means? I mean, in the general context, the big picture of this season, what's just happened there tonight, and then obviously last night at Tynecastle, these feel like massive moments.
Honestly, monumental few minutes, wasn't it? Really, I mean, it did seem that way, because I think one each at Celtic Park. I'm not saying that Celtic's challenge is over, but it's been severely dented. I mean, I actually think not winning tonight's game 4 or 5-0 actually dents Celtic's title challenge when we talk about Hearts sneaking ahead again. Because I think this was a game that Celtic should have been winning 4 or 5-0. And by the way, it could have been 4 or 0 in the first 15 minutes here. But they don't, once again, the same feelings all season. They don't take their chances. I just wrote there now, never mind the Ox. I mean, Celtic couldn't hit a cue in the backside with a banjo. Again, you just know them. Teams don't take their chances. You think it only takes one opportunity. And Livingston hung tough. I mean, listen, fair play to them. They dug in, but they rode their luck. The goalkeeper, Jerome Pryor, had a brilliant game, 4 or 5 great saves. And then they get a penalty an absolute gift of a penalty kick. Mario Tati, who, I mean, listen, I've been critical of him on this programme a few times. Again, tonight, I mean, really careless. And the ball's dropped in the box and he's not even looking over his shoulder. And he tries to volley it away. But Robbie Muirhead's standing behind him and he just volleyed into him. And you think, I mean, it's just careless, reckless, almost a lazy challenge. And it's at Livingston score, and all of a sudden it's panic stations. And I've got to say, Celtic didn't really look like scoring. A bit like the game against Dundee at the weekend, didn't really create an awful lot. After that point, having been really good in the first half and get a lot of chances, they dried up. Martin was throwing nothing at it. And he brings on Oxlade-Chamberlain. It's a massive roar. And you're thinking, could this guy become the hero? It's a big ask. He's not played for nearly a year. And then he gets the opportunity, he cuts inside, and his goal is absolutely sensational. And that's the quality he's got. And what a start from. I mean, instant hero status. And like you said, he's rescued. I mean, not being too dramatic, but it's almost rescued Celtic's title hopes tonight.
Aye.
Well, the whole thing's, and then of course, on a night of incredible stories, it's a player that's on loan from Celtic who scores the goal at Motherwell, which flips the whole thing round again. It's just astonishing. This season is the season that keeps on giving, Mick. But you know, Rangers being 1-0 up so early on in the night, it looks like it's going to be a good night for Rangers. When Livingston get the equaliser, it's, you know, I think a big moment. And for everything to then switch again in the space of just a few minutes at the end, and for Stephen Welsh to get the goal, I mean, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, it's just an extraordinary set of circumstances.
I didn't even know it was Stephen Welsh that got the goal, so we only got the word through at the end here, and we're frantically bashing laptops at that point. Just to add another twist to the evening. So just showed that it has been an utterly bonkers season, hasn't it? And incredibly, listen, I still think Celtic are still hanging in there. I mean, Martin Neal has got, I mean, I don't know if he's a genius or he carries something out of luck. I mean, he really has got the kind of Midas touch. I mean, he looked at me, got a start before the game. This is his 200th league game in charge of Celtic across his now 3 spells. This is his 164th win. He's only lost 15 league games in his 3 spells. That's now 10 since he come back twice this year. I mean, 9 wins and 1 draw. I mean, these are numbers that are incredible. I mean, for a guy who doesn't like his data and his stats, those stats are unreal. But how they're doing it and how it looks on paper and how it's actually happening is a completely different thing, because at the moment it's by hook or by crook. But he seems to be pulling it off. So
Well, the thing is, Mick, as well, Celtic now, so this was when the spotlight was really on what happens in the Edinburgh Derby, how the Rangers go at Fir Park, and then the two of them go at each other at Ibrox on Sunday. So the spotlight was on them, and I think the sort of assumption would be that Celtic have got to take care of business. They're playing the 2 teams at the bottom of the table. They've got to take 6 points from these games. If they don't, then you start to have serious doubts about their ability to go the distance this season. But now, tonight as well, another kind of side kind of show of this incredible season is that Kilmarnock have scored 4 goals again. Beat St Mirren 4-3. That's their second home win in a bounce. And Celtic don't like Rugby Park. So that becomes, it's Sunday. Sunday afternoon's just going to be crazy.
Aye. Thankfully it's in the afternoon. I'm not got this deadline over me. That's the only good thing. At least if it does go a bit chaotic, we've got time to breathe. But like you say, I mean, this week we're all talking about Hearts and Rangers and how they got on this week. And I think Celtic, everyone assumed that Celtic would just go and get the 6 points as they had to. But if it did not get 3 points tonight, I think it would have been catastrophic in terms of because people talk about this tough run of games coming up. To drop points this week would have been a disaster for Celtic. There's no getting away from that. Yeah. As I say, I still think this is the night they might. I mean, it'll be framed as a relief, a great win. I think it was an opportunity missed to go and get some goals. The goal difference isn't great for Celtic in terms of Rangers and Hearts especially. This should have been, after half an hour, you're thinking this should be a 4 or 5-0 job. Cut that gap within the goal difference and get back to kind of parity. Opportunity missed, but it then becomes just get the 3 points, and they just got the 3 points eventually to death. But Celtic, they can't keep this up. They need to raise the performance levels over 90 minutes. It might be that Oxlade-Chamberlain is going to be the key to it. I certainly think he's going to have to be for Celtic, because Arnie Engels limped off in the first half. Call me a cynic, but after the 20 million move didn't work out the very first game. Listen, maybe I'm a bit cynical, but maybe tipped over a pitted lip, maybe, I don't know. But Rio Tati comes on, and Tati was not great. It was not great. His form has gone off a cliff this last wee while. Tonight it was as poor as I've seen him, and not even notwithstanding the penalty kick. So that leaves Oxlade-Chamberlain now. When you look at Pillo Bernardo, forgot about, not involved again. I think Oxlade has got to hit the ground running. So that goal will give him a massive boost, and Celtic need him to be at that level now for the rest of the season, I think, because they can't rely on Tati. We don't know how Engels is going to be in terms of fitness.
Mick, I know you have to get on and do your post-match duties, the press conference, but thanks very much for joining us as ever on the Hotline Live.
No worries, chaps. Have a pleasant evening. I'm going to lie in a dark corner again.
Thanks. And we're also joined now by the one and only Andy Newport from Fir Park. Andy, I mean, not a lot of goals, but
he's just checked out.
There you go. He heard my voice and he thought, I'm not doing this. I was going to say plenty of drama at the end there. Let me run through a couple. Oh, here he is. Andy. How's it going? You cut me off in my prime. How's it going?
You disappeared. The volume disappeared. So you just I turned the computer on and off again, and here we are.
There you go. Plenty of drama at the end there.
Oh, listen, I just had to do a 1,000-word rewrite. So if you
you and Mick both
a minute just to regain my composure, but not the result Rangers were looking for. But I tell you what, Motherwell more than deserved that. They were terrific tonight.
I don't think there's any debate about that, Andy. Having watched the game, it was almost incredible that Rangers were going to get away with a 1-0 there. It was absolutely honours even for me in that game. Motherwell deserved it.
I mean, they were, obviously Rangers get the early goal through Nico Raskin, and it was a goal that was like right out the Jens Berthau Rasku playbook.
Yeah.
I mean, they drew Motherwell in, they played out for a goal kick, drew the press, burst through the middle, ball in for Diamandi into Raskin, 1-0 Rangers, and at that point you were thinking, if Rangers can build on this, then this might be a real statement performance. But I tell you what, it was Motherwell that grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck. They went after Rangers, and they just, the second half was a wee bit, wasn't quite as open as the first half, but they kept going right at the end. And I think now you're going to see Danny Rose going to have some questions to answer, because I think a lot of the Rangers fans come here tonight expected to see the January signings get wheeled out and go in and really put in a big show of what they were brought here to do. But for some reason, Danny Rose decided to keep 3 out of 4 on the bench. I thought Tochi Chukwani had a really good game in there in the engine room. His power, his strength, his physicality. Rangers were crying out for some invention at the top end of the pitch. They had nothing new. And Youssef Chermiti, yet again, just showing that he's not a goal scorer. He has a huge opportunity just before half time. 2 goes at it, can't bury it. And that's a miss that I think Rangers are going to come to regret if they can't get themselves back into this title race. It's a big game against Hearts at the weekend. That's now looking like a must-win game. That was a game.
It is a must-win game, Andy.
Yeah, they were looking at that thinking that could be the game that potentially put them top of the table. Now it's a game they have to win just to keep in touch with the leaders. Celtic digging out a win in stoppage time tonight. Hearts doing it last night. Yeah, when it comes to the crunch, it's Rangers who fall over at the death. We've been questioning this team's mentality, its character, all season. It's improved under Danny Rome, but that's a big battle step there tonight.
It's interesting, Andy, that you mentioned the manager's decision-making coming in for a bit of scrutiny. I think you're right. And this isn't with retrospect, but I think anybody looking at that starting lineup would have been asking questions before a ball being kicked tonight, because all the upgrades in quality, all the people that have been brought in as reinforcements to make the team better, to go back to Gassama, to Chermiti, 2 guys that have been posted missing over and over again in big games, big moments this season. And again, the 2 of them, the contribution was, it was hardly noticeable over the course of...
Listen, I feel bad about pointing fingers at a 19-year-old kid, but I think the reason why the fingers will be pointing is because the fans were so excited about what they've seen from the new signings. Two Romans has come in and looked like a real upgrade at left back, physical, strong, able to get up and down the pitch. Scovolson looked like he was just sort of finding his feet after a wee bit of a slow start, and then obviously Nadiri getting his 2 goals at the weekend. Fans were excited about having a proper goal scorer up front for a change. Whether Danny Rose decided that he wanted to keep these guys in reserve until Sunday, put them out against Hearts, whether he just felt that the guys who have been here before were better suited to come in here at a tough away venue against a team that was in terrific form, I don't know. Obviously, we Scott, I'm here with tonight. He'll be down in the press conference now speaking to the manager, but I think a lot of fans, even just looking on social media before the game, a lot of fans were really perplexed by that lineup. I mean, I don't think MD could understand it, given just the way that the new signings have performed at the weekend and performed when they come off the bench against Kilmarnock last week.
Well, look, on that, Danny Rowe is taking a bit of a tanking in the comment section. I'll read out a couple of these very quickly, if that's okay. Stuart Muir says, Rowe picked the wrong team. Where's your bottle? Stephen says, that time wasting was doing my head in. 1-0 up against 10 men. Pathetic. Gassama is useless. Romans at left back doesn't get beaten there like that. Terrible. We got everything we deserved. Luke says, Rowe got his tactics wrong tonight in the team selection. Singing the Blues points out, though, there's plenty of twists and turns to come, obviously. And Ross McCormack wants to know if we provide a Hotline Live defibrillator, because with everything going on, we're probably going to need it.
I hope there's a Hotline Live bottle of Jack Daniels, because I'm going to make it after the...
We'll take it out of the petty cash. And just finally, David says Danny Rowe lost us the league tonight. His tactics are shocking. He's no Rangers manager class. I want him sacked. Bloody hell. But aye, that's...
what I would say is that he yesterday at the press conference, he implored the team to show courage. He said that this was a big game that they would have feared coming into, a wee while ago. I didn't think that was a team selection that looked, courageous to me. That looked like a containing team. I think he was quite happy to get the early goal and then just almost kind of shut up shop, because at times Rangers were having to really, not cling on, but they were having to really dig in. Suter throw himself into tackles. Giga's making last-ditch interceptions, and as I said, Chutwani and Raskin were having to make really big interventions at times. Raskin has that header from underneath his own crossbar. And, it was Motherwell making all the play. Rangers weren't trying to dominate this game. At one point, I think the first half possession stats were Motherwell were on 67%. I can't ever remember a Rangers team coming here and being outplayed to that extent. Listen, we all know that Motherwell are a fantastic footballing team and they can do that. They've done it to Celtic here as well. But I think if Danny Rowe was true to his word, as he said at his press conference yesterday, I think he comes out, he plays his big hitters and he goes and almost goes toe to toe with Motherwell. I don't think he tried to do that at all tonight.
Well, Andy, I know you say you've got post-match duties to be getting on with. Before I let you go, he's lost the. Oh well, there you go. And Keith, I've managed to get you back. You dropped out there as well. This is going well.
Should we blame NordVPN?
It's been smooth up until they come out. What I was going to say there to Andy, hopefully maybe comes back, but a lot of talk about Rangers. There he is again.
I'm back.
There he is. I was going to say, Andy, do you think Danny Rowe will change his team lineup for that massive game against Hearts? Bring some of the new boys in?
Listen, I think he'll have to, on the basis that the guys who performed tonight aren't up to the job, clearly. Yusuf Jermiti, still, what is it, 4 goals I think he's on still. He'd been improving. I think he's taken a backward step, sorry. Gisama, listen, there was talk during the window that, there was bids for Jedi Gisama that were not back. I think Rangers might come to regret that, because I'm not sure they'll get those kind of bids again in the summer, because again, he's not performing at the level Rangers need him to. Listen, they need this is 2 big away games they've been to in the last fortnight, and they've looked nothing like a threat. They've not looked like they're capable of opening up teams away from home. They scored 12 goals over the last 2 games against, Kilmarnock struggling at the bottom of the division against a Championship Queen's Park side. And we said on Hotline Live and in the Rangers podcast that we do, that those were encouraging signs. We did caveat it that was against a really, a lower level of opposition. They had to show that against the better teams in the division. They went Easter Road, they couldn't do it. And again here tonight, they couldn't score, they couldn't create the quality and the volume of chances that's going to get them a comfortable win. So, yeah, I think there has to be changes coming the weekend.
I think that's the thing that comes as such a surprise, Andy. I mean, you've been watching them all season. It's been obvious to anybody that has watched them for any length of time that creating chances, in the final third, that's always been the key area of the team that was likely to let Rangers down. So when you then go in January and you bring in more creative players, a £4.7 million striker, I just cannot for the life of me understand what he was thinking tonight. I mean, that you're struggling to create with Gisama and Chamiti in key areas. So why go to Fir Park, which has been a difficult place, one of the most difficult places in the country to go to this season, and not tool yourself up properly for it? And now you're totally right, Andy. If Rangers don't win, and if Hearts, and I kind of painted the scenario, I thought Rangers might drop points tonight. I didn't think it would happen. Nothing's happened as you expected, and it won't this season, obviously. But I did think Rangers might, and I thought if you're Hearts, you're then going into the game at Ibrox thinking, you win this, you just about finish them. But even if you take a point, you're in a right good position.
But I mean, Derek McInnes said last night that, Rangers and Celtic teams win these games when they're not playing well. But it's been such a long time since you could say that about a Rangers team, that they can dig out results when they're playing poorly. I just think, as I said, I don't know if you heard it there, Keith, but I was saying, like, Danny Rowe was asking for his team to show bravery. I don't think that was a brave team selection he went with. So
I agree.
He has to get a result come Sunday, because if they fall, what is it now, potentially 8 points behind Hearts, then they're out the title race. At that point, they've been let back in. They've had the door opened up for them. From the lows, they've been 13 points behind. I don't think they get a second chance at this. So listen, for me, it's a win or bust game. I don't even think a draw really helps them. I think, given you look at the post-split fixtures, it looks like they'll have to go to Tynecastle, they'll have to go to Celtic Park. I think there's even talk they might have to go to Easter Road for a third time. So these are games that are really tough. They'll be tough at the best of times, but when you're chasing and you've got other, there's a three-way split, I think the fear will now be that Rangers can get dropped if they don't get themselves back into it come Sunday.
Just before we let you go, Andy, I just wanted to get Keith's take on that. Conor O'Brien says in the comments, Rangers need to win on Sunday to have any chance of winning the league. Do you agree with that, Keith?
Yeah, I probably do. I think we're coming down to this stretch now where, as I said, start the show with Mick, you just feel like the events of last night, tonight, the last 24 hours are real key moments. And I think it's left Rangers in a position that if they fail to win at home at Hearts, I think they've gone from a position of being really right in the mix to becoming a long shot again.
Andy, I know you've got plenty of post-match duties to be getting on with, a rewrite as well, but I hope it all goes well for you.
Cheers, boys. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy.
Much appreciated. Andy Newport there. Well, fair play for the guys coming on, Keith, because it's manic, those post-match rewrites and what have you. Tons of comments coming in.
That's why I choose the easy life for the Hotline Live.
That's it. I feel kind of bad saying that, but there you go. Kenneth White, I'll start with this. It says, what about John Jules' hat-trick for Kelly tonight? It'll be a hard game for Celtic on Sunday, that's for sure. We should probably give them a pat in the back, because massive win for Kelly. Neil McCann certainly seems like he's got them going a bit. Oh,
listen, there's no doubt. And Celtic don't like going to Rugby Park at the best of times. They've had some good moments at Rugby Park, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Probably won a couple of titles there. But now that Kilmarnock are getting a bit of a foothold in this season, Neil McCann's got in there with Billy Dodds, and they're improving and they're scoring goals. So I think it becomes a difficult trip down the M77 for Celtic, this one, especially given how flaky they are just now. Yes, Martin O'Neill somehow keeps pulling the 3 points out the bag and posting them up on the board, but they're not doing it convincingly. Dundee played them off their own pitch in the Scottish Cup. It sounds as if tonight became really a bit of a slog, and you just wonder, because we're talking here about critical moments in campaigns. If Celtic fail to get a win at Rugby Park and Rangers fail to get a win at home at Hearts, wow. Could you then be looking at this as Hearts are now sailing off into the distance? And what I would say is, Dan, and I think this is probably proven true in league campaigns all over the shop, is that for somebody, an outsider, an unfancied, a dark horse, to win it and get across the finishing line, it usually helps if it becomes a procession rather than a mad dash to the line, because it just alleviates a bit of pressure. Because the pressure's already enormous, because there's so much on every game. But I just think from a Hearts perspective, if they can get themselves a bit of breathing space, and that's exactly the scenario they'll be hoping for, that Celtic go to Kilmarnock and struggle and maybe drop something. If they can take a point from Ibrox, they're in a really strong position. If they beat Rangers at Ibrox, wow, they are motoring and motoring off towards a fairy tale ending.
Aye. Like I said, we've got plenty of comments coming in. I'll throw a few of these at you before we need to wrap up, Keith. This one from Bengal says, when are the SFA going to start investigate Martin O'Neill for his use of black magic? These 90-minute goals are giving me PTSD from 20 years ago. Sean says it did become a slog, but Celtic should have been 4 up. They're still creating loads of chances. DP, though, says Rangers have drawn a game if Celtic win their game in hand. He puts out what the current table will be, and he insists Rangers are still favourites to win the league in his eyes. Jean-Paul points out Celtic doing what champions do, playing rotten and winning. Although Liam Devine says they looked absolutely abysmal, totally reliant on moments of individual quality, and plenty of Ox comments in the comments. Excellent goal, extra time winner. And Stephen wants Jens Bertalascu. He's one of a few who's bigging him up for the Celtic job in the summer.
Well, people have got to be looking at this man and what he's done, because it's been remarkable. Motherwell's development this season in a very short space of time. And remember, he goes into that job running about a similar time as Russell Martin goes into the Rangers job. Russell Martin gets a fortune to spend, backed by new American owners, and then complains that he needs more time. Bertalascu has gone in there, operated on a shoestring budget comparatively, and Motherwell got up and get into this stride so early on in the campaign. I know they had a difficult period where they were dropping points, and they were playing this brilliant style of football, but there was a threat that they were going to get dragged into the relegation issues at the bottom of the table because of it. But the more they've practiced it, the more they've perfected it, the better they are at it. I don't think that was Motherwell at their best tonight, but they were still the best team on the pitch, playing the best football. I think they can be better than that. What I would say is, I don't think the officials helped that game tonight.
Yeah.
I thought Stephen McLean, he was given yellow cards for fouls that weren't bookings. He was given a yellow card for one that was clearly a straight red, and he was not booking players that should have been booked. So I just felt the whole game was very bitty because of it. But Rangers can have no complaints. They certainly can't blame the referee. Motherwell were down to 10 men, and they couldn't hold on to a lead, which could be priceless, or could have been priceless. And this is a Rangers side that has got issues. And this is why, when we were having these conversations a few weeks ago, I said Rangers have got so much to prove. I'm yet to be convinced that they have got what it takes to win this title. Because how many times has this Rangers side been in a strong position, been in a good position, and then the legs have started to shake?
Yeah.
And that, to me, was a performance where the manager got his team selection and tactics wrong. And some of the players that he was looking at to turn it on for him and to get him the 3 points, which then enables them to go into the Hearts game with a bit of momentum. Well, they were posted missing again. I thought in that Rangers performance tonight, Nico Raskin, not for the first time, outstanding. Diomande played well. Chukwueze played quite well. In the midfield, I think that's where he got his team selection right, because they had the energy and the legs to combat Motherwell, and the three of them did a very good job of doing that in the centre of the pitch. I wasn't sure about Giga starting the match, but actually he ended up having one of his better performances tonight. I thought he was reading a lot of the Motherwell stuff and intercepting it, and I thought he had a decent enough game. But even when Roll started making changes, they weren't changes that seemed to make the team any better. And I just think he'll be going, but he'll be kicking himself tonight, because he's done a lot of good stuff for Rangers to get them into this position. But ultimately, if he assesses his own work and his own decision making tonight, he'll know that he got it wrong. And it just, all it does is pile the pressure on him for this weekend.
And see, just before we wrap up, Keith, we haven't mentioned it, but the red card for Lucas Fadinger, pretty straightforward. I thought it was definitely a red card.
Look, do you know what? I'm not going to criticise here, because I've always said VAR is there as the safety blanket. If the referee, and you can't catch everything at real speed and what have you, but I'm not sure that VAR's done the right thing. He's pulled him over at the screen. He's looked at it. That's the safety net. That's VAR working perfectly.
Yeah.
But as I said to you, I thought the decision making There was guys getting booked for things that were never bookings. There was guys getting away with things that should have been bookings. And then there was that was a booking when it was clearly a red card.
No.
And look, I'm glad that we've got VAR. I'm glad that when it's used properly like that, the right decision is got to at the end. He should be seeing that at full speed, should he not?
Aye.
It was a shocker from every angle.
It was an absolute shocker. It was really bad. Even Fadiger, he was up the tunnel. He knew right away.
I don't think that he could believe he'd only get booked for it.
No, I agree. I think so. Before we wrap up tonight, I think we can look at the latest Premiership table. And obviously, this is the. Oh, do you know what? I keep thinking it's Thursday night. I was going to say this is the last show we'll do before Sunday. It's not. We'll be back tomorrow. But it shapes up amazingly. That game on Sunday, Keith, Rangers versus Hearts. It's mouth-watering, to say the least. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah, I'm just looking now. I mean, that's your top six is just about home and hose now, isn't it?
And Falkirk as well. We need Falkirk again.
Well, that's tonight. What I'm saying.
I mean, incredible.
Another 3 points tonight. 39 points. 11 points ahead of Aberdeen. Is that right?
Aye, looks like it.
So
I think Aberdeen have 2 games in hand, but aye.
Yeah, and are they going to win them?
Probably not. Aye.
So I think you're now the top 6, your bottom 6 is pretty much taking shape. I'd be surprised if there's any changes to that. Falkirk are looking up the way rather than down the way, and we are talking about this weekend, these games, this midweek followed by the weekend being potentially a pivotal part in this season. But there is another part of you says, well, hold on a second, because none of these games, post-split games, are going to be straightforward for any of the teams.
Aye.
Because the top 6 there's a lot of quality in there. Nobody's going to want to go to Falkirk. That's not a given. That's not a gimme of 3 points. And then you've got Hibs, Motherwell doing what Motherwell are doing, and the top 3 battling out. So, yeah, there could be a lot of twists and turns still to come, but I can't get away from it, Daniel. I felt all along, we're talking about, putting a big red ring round dates. I felt for some time that this was going to be a potentially key few days in terms of where this title ends up. I would not be in the slightest bit surprised if Hearts end this weekend in a really strong position. I'm not saying they're going to win at Ibrox. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they go there and get a draw. And I'm not entirely sure that this Celtic team can be trusted, even despite Martin O'Neill's magic dust. I'm not sure they can be trusted to get 3 points at Kilmarnock.
Oh, no, look, I can't disagree with what you said. And what that means for us, Keith, it means the Hotline Live is only going to get better. I think for tonight...
I'm not sure I can cope.
Ross in the comments saying the defibrillator. I think we might need to look into that. But aye, I'll have a wee look on eBay or something. I think that brings us to the end of tonight's show, though. Thank you so much for all the comments, and thank you for staying up late with us. Massively appreciate it. They've been first class as always. And Keith, it's always an absolute pleasure.
I'll see you tomorrow night, Dan, and then we can go and get a lie down before Sunday.
We'll be back, as Keith says, at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Hope you can join us then on the Hotline Live with NordVPN. Cheers.